Hang on. Yeah.
Hey everybody on Facebook Live, I'm Frank Washkuch. I'm the news director at PRWeek, and we have a great guest for you this week on the PRWeek podcast. That is Liza Fefferman. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm glad to have you on this week. And as usual, when I'm stepping in as a guest host for Steve Barron, I'm joined by Diana Bradley, our associate news editor. How are you, Diana?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, good. So we are going to start recording as soon as I get the go-ahead from Alex behind the dials. Should be in a few seconds. We won't keep you in any more suspense. Patiently waiting on Alex. No pressure at all. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PR Week. That's PR Week's weekly podcast for everything going on in the worlds of PR and communications. My name is Frank Washkuch. I'm the news director at PR Week and M magazines, and I have a terrific guest for you this week. It is Liza Fefferman, and she is the head of comms at MTV, VH1, CMT, and Logo. They're all Viacom brands. Liza, welcome aboard to this week's podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good deal, good deal. And as usual, I'm joined by Diana Bradley, who's our associate news editor at PR Week. Diana, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
How are you?
Good. So Liza, tell us a little, I'm just reading your bio right now, actually, off of my notes. And this just seems like an enormous job you have. 4 networks.
Yes.
A lot going on.
Yes.
A lot of fist pumping and gym tanning and what's laundry?
GTL, yes.
It's been a little while. So tell us a little bit about your role.
Sure. So I joined Viacom in May of 2016 to work with Chris McCarthy, who at the time was running VH1 and Logo, to kind of help elevate those 2 brands and kind of give these kind of underserved brands more attention, more love. I think that there was a strong audience there, but I don't know how many people actually kind of knew about all the success. So it was a great and exciting opportunity for me, having come from the film business. And I was just immediately taken with Chris, who has this underdog mentality and rolls up his sleeves, and no task is too small. And I'm kind of drawn to that kind of executive, and I just felt like there was so much we could do, and so it was an exciting opportunity for me. About 9 months later, we were also given MTV. Chris took over that brand as well, so that team kind of came in to us, and so we merged the VH1 Logo comms team with the MTV team, and then most recently with CMT, which happened in November of 2018. So now our portfolio is 4 brands, all very different, all very unique, and I feel like it's a great privilege to work with Chris, who I just think is a true visionary, and what he has done in terms of being able to turn brands around is really quite remarkable.
Tell us a little bit about what's a day like for you. I mean, do you find that you're coming in and reacting to something as soon as you get to your desk, or tell us what it's like?
Yeah, my girls, I have 2 young daughters, and they ask me that question every time when I get home from work every day, and I said, today I thought I was going to be doing X, Y, and Z, and in fact, I actually did X, Y, and Z, a little of A, B, and C, and some, M and L. So I think that I am a super kind of organized type A person, and like to have a plan of what I want to accomplish in a day, and inevitably I'm able to accomplish some of my to-do list, but constantly things come up that we're having to react to.
When is the last time it actually went according to plan?
Yeah, it rarely does.
Because in my case, it's usually out the window by 6:30 or so I can only imagine. So, okay, so you have these 4 brands. You have MTV, you have VH1, you have CMT, you have Logo. They're very different, like you said. I'm not going to ask you which one is your favorite, but, what are the main things you're dealing with each day with each one?
So it's a great question. So, MTV was identified by Bob Bakish, who runs Viacom, as one of the 6 flagship brands when he took over. And so MTV certainly takes up a bulk of my time, and it's been an amazing journey on MTV. I've only been working on it, I guess, since officially, what are we at? June of 17. So what are we? About a year and a half?
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years, yes. But when Chris kind of took over the brand, it had been in 5 years of straight decline. Ratings were down 45%, and within 8 months, he completely turned things around. So we saw our first summer of ratings growth in the summer of 17, which was a pretty amazing accomplishment. So it's been really exciting to see and to be a part of that turnaround effort, and we just closed out our 6th consecutive quarter of growth, which is our best streak in the brand's 38-year history. And also, thinking beyond linear, how are we future-proofing the business? We launched something called MTV Studios, where we're taking all this incredible IP that we built over the past 35 years or 38 years and reimagining it for SVOD platforms. So you think of The Real World, you think of Aeon Flux, you think of Daria, Celebrity Deathmatch. And so just thinking like, we want to reach our audience everywhere they are. So yes, of course on linear, but we also want to reach, we want to reach everyone who's consuming on digital, on streaming. And so we're very much thinking ahead, I think. And we never we never call ourselves a channel or a network. It's always brand. Mm-hmm. And that's something that Chris has emphasized really since day one.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned the ratings rebound in 2017. What do you think is attributable to that? Was it new programming? Was it, a combination of things?
Yeah, it's a great question. So it's certainly, I think we elevated existing hits and just kind of through a really fresh creative lens. We have an incredible woman named Mina Al-Diaz who's our president of entertainment, who's so creative and smart and sophisticated, and had done this incredible job having run programming, having run entertainment at VH1. And so I think it's about going into existing shows. How can we tweak them? Do we bring in new creatives to help elevate? So I think that was part of it, and launching new and really leaning into our IP. You take something like Jersey Shore, which we brought back after a significant hiatus, but we didn't just reboot it. We brought it back thinking through the lens of like, what are these kids who aren't really kids, we're just turning 30, what's going on in their life right now? What are their life stages? Some have gotten married, some have babies, some have split up, but they're at a different stage than they were when the show originated. And I think the inspiration was really the film Girls Trip, which is about like, what's it like to go away with your friends, your best friends, and escape kind of, whatever it is you have at home, the job, the baby, the marriage. And that's how Jersey Shore Family Vacation came to be. It was the biggest unscripted hit in 6 years. It was a massive, massive win for the brand, and it also allowed us to launch new successes out of it, which is always the way we think.
Mm-hmm. What is that's really interesting. What is running comms like at MTV? What is your main focus? Is it the corporate work? Is it more offensive, forward-looking, consumer-based, communications? Do you have a heavy emphasis on social? Like, what takes up the most of your time?
I would say it's really kind of everything. My purview is corporate, it's strategy, it's programming, it's awards, it's crisis, it's thought leadership. So I really kind of I'm responsible for kind of everything, and it all takes up a nice chunk of time. Where I have been really fortunate is I have really great people with whom I work, and so delegating is enormously important. And I'm fortunate to have folks who kind of run the day-to-day on the programming side, or run the day-to-day on the awards side. And so then it's just about making sure that I'm in the loop and I know what's going on, but being able to delegate to those folks to make sure everything's running smoothly.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So the night of the MTV Awards, what's that like for you?
The VMAs.
The VMAs,
yes.
Excuse me.
Yeah, that's okay.
Showing my age.
It's so much of our work is done in advance.
Right.
We're starting 6 months out, planning and strategizing and figuring out what our campaign is going to look like, what assets we're going to deploy, what is our, how are we telling our story, and we never want to do the same thing twice. So it's all about trying to think super creatively and coming up with innovating ways to make a tent pole that has been so groundbreaking for so many years still feel really fresh. So we work extremely closely with our partners in marketing and in social and digital and really and talent and make sure it's like one cohesive message and then figuring out how to action off of all that.
That's interesting. So CMT, I'm not a country music fan. Convert me. What am I missing?
Have you been to Nashville?
No.
You should go.
Okay.
Nashville's a great town. It's a hub of culture and music and great food and just a really kind of warm, generous spirit. I had been once before and then we went down to meet the team and so welcoming and I think you'll start seeing kind of our imprint on CMT over the summer. So maybe I can go back and tell you.
Okay, fair enough.
But we're really excited to have the opportunity and to continue kind of the success that the brand has already had and just build on it.
And tell us a little bit more about VH1 Logo.
Yes,
too.
I'm so proud of
Diana, before we came on the
Yeah.
air, Diana referenced having a VH1 narrator do this podcast. And I think I know what you mean, but not quite. But anyway. Sorry, I just brought a private joke into
my
the
joke
podcast.
made no sense, so I will not elaborate.
I think we were talking behind the music.
Oh,
you know,
yes,
something like that.
yes.
So,
I was just saying,
Yeah.
maybe we could have got a special musical guest in on the show.
Oh, I thought you were actually gonna.
Yeah.
I thought you were
Or
talking
you could
about.
sing.
Yeah, I could sing, or we could have,
as long as I'm not singing. That
I
Not
think you
be good
definitely
for-
need to sing.
that
Well,
would
now
not be
you
good
have
for-
to sing.
No, I don't think that'll happen. I think it's best for everyone involved that I don't. Tell us a little bit about VH1.
Yes. So at VH1, I would say culture is kind of the center of what we do, and it's a culture that welcomes all shades, genders, orientations. We think multicultural is just culture, and we recently unveiled a new tagline that's where pop culture comes to party. A great example of that would be Martha and Snoop's potluck dinner party, where everyone's favorite odd couple, Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg, come together in a kitchen and have their kind of famous friends gather around and they cook different meals and they riff and there's a DJ and it's just it's such a fascinating kind of incredible dynamic that the two of them have. We love that show. We're so excited about it. It's a big hit for us. And obviously, RuPaul's Drag Race, which is won a tremendous number of Emmys. I should know that number off the top of my head. I think we're at 11. That was a major accomplishment for myself and the team and our team. We when we came in, or when I came in, no one had ever kind of run an Emmy campaign before at Logo. And I said, my background is having run several, Academy campaigns when I worked for Harvey Weinstein and when I worked at Samuel Goldwyn Films. And I felt like this is a show that we should really try and see if we can chase some awards. And we were able to kind of, I brought on a consultant with whom I had worked very closely when I worked at the Weinstein Company, and we were successful. So Rue won at Best Host when the show was still on Logo. We moved the show to VH1 to increase, because we're in several, it's in twice as many homes as Logo, and so Chris McCarthy had thought, this show has such a big audience, we need to give it kind of as big a platform as we possibly can. And then, VH1, we were able to continue that, and then the next year we were nominated for I believe it was 9 Emmys, and we won 4. And then this year, we actually broke Emmy history, and I'm so proud to say this, and the team worked so hard, led by Michael Fabiani. We won for Best Host and for Best Reality Competition, which had never been done before in Emmy history. So what a coup for a show that has been so groundbreaking, such a pop culture phenomenon, embraces everything that's important, which is, acceptance and inclusion and diversity. And it's an amazing franchise, and we're just so proud to have it on our air.
Mm-hmm. Take us a little bit. I know we could do a whole show on this, and we could do a whole show on what it's like to do a campaign pre-awards,
Yeah.
which we've been talking about recently before the Oscars.
Yeah.
Like what is it like to pitch for all these different award shows
Yeah.
and the build-up, and what do you
Yes.
emphasize, what do you de-emphasize, and
Yes.
things like that. We could do whole shows on those other 2 things. But okay, so if you're at one of those networks when a show launches,
Yeah.
what is that like behind the scenes?
Well, I'd like to. we start roughly 3 months out, and so we're watching the pilot. We're figuring out, like, who are these cast members? Where are they from? And, we're very heavily rooted in unscripted, so which is obviously a little bit different than scripted. But I would say, what are our story angles? What are our hooks? It's always about how do we make this show stand out? It's such a crowded marketplace, and there's so much content. So how do we kind of separate ourselves? Can we, we look at teases, we look at clips, we carve out, exclusives, which, as you all know, are hugely important. When we can find out where these people are from, we can go the local route if the talent's not known, and that's how we get them known, because obviously regional drives national. So we're thinking ahead, and again, I can't emphasize enough how closely we work with our partners in marketing and digital and social. It's just we have to collaborate with them in service of making sure that our campaigns stand out.
Interesting stuff. Okay, tell us a little bit about Outward Bound Schools and what do you do there?
I'm so proud. I'm a recent board member of New York City Outward Bound Schools, which is an amazing organization that supports kids who are in the public school system within the 5 boroughs, and kind of helps them with resources that they wouldn't normally have. And one of those resources includes sending them to, on an outward bound, the days range from 2 days to 7 days, where they learn skills that they just haven't been taught. And it helps foster independence and skills, again, that they wouldn't have had New York City Outward Bound not come in to kind of help. So
when you say new skills, what kind of things?
Well, just, when you think about what is it like to camp, and what is it like to be in the wilderness, and, put together, cook on in a campfire and make a fire, and put up a tent and sleep outdoors, and to skills that maybe some of us take for granted.
I certainly do not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so, and some of these kids have never left the borough in which they're from.
Sure.
So I'm incredibly proud to have the opportunity to be involved with the organization.
Very, very interesting. Okay, so I'm going to kick it over to Diana now, and she's going to give us a wrap-up of the top communications news of the week. So there is the first, new and the first Chief Communications Officer, Kentucky Fried Chicken, a story you would have read only at PR Week this morning. Diana, tell us all about it.
Broke it.
What time were you up writing the story, like 3:45 or so?
I actually wrote it last night.
Did you? Okay. So she's going for extra credit.
Yes. And then I woke up at 4:30 to start on our briefing this morning.
Okay.
And read the news for everyone. The story is Stacey Rowles. She's been promoted to first Chief Communications Officer for KFC US, effective immediately, and she'll report to Andrea Zahumensky, who is KFC's US CMO. And so she was, she's worked at KFC US for about 4 years. And she was the director of public affairs, and she led a lot of the very wacky and well-known campaigns KFC has put out over the past few years, such as the chicken-scented sunscreen.
That was the only one I really didn't like, because we got it all over the office.
We did, and it was memorable.
And
they
weeks
sold out
weeks.
of those at the time. We were lucky enough to get a sample.
Could you imagine going to the beach and the people next to your group smell like
it's not like
fried chicken
soup.
sunscreen?
It smelled like chicken soup, which made it a little more disgusting.
You think
to be
so?
honest with you. Yeah.
I can't imagine that, but anyway.
Yeah, it was really gross. I think I still have it.
So
it's a
anyway.
collector's item.
Anyway, moving on.
But she also worked on the 11 herbs and spices fire logs and the launch of KFC's first female Colonel Reba McEntire.
Yes.
So
does she pick the kernels?
I don't know that process. The rotating kernels, how they decide. They keep that top secret. So I don't know who's in charge of that. But.
Okay. I was kind of surprised they didn't have a chief communications officer before, because they do such interesting stuff, and I think they're well regarded as a leader out there.
Yeah, I think it sounds like her role was kind of already that, but now it's just.
But she's been
like
promoted.
Official. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
Well, we will look to see what KFC has for us, has in store for us. We'll see who the next Colonel is. RoboCop is pretty interesting.
Yeah, they're
Now-
a really fun brand to follow.
Now, were you there when we did the interview with George Hamilton a couple of years ago when he was the Colonel?
Perry video?
That's right.
I was not there in person, no.
Okay. George
But,
Hamilton
yeah.
is legendary tan.
Yes.
He was
He
the
did
extra crispy Colonel
I remember that.
because he's very tan. you
Yes,
see.
yes,
Yeah.
indeed.
We did a
Indeed.
video with him at poolside.
Yes.
How
So-
fitting.
Yeah.
How could we forget that?
Yeah, I think there was some Colonel floats or something going by in the background. Like these massive,
Yeah.
it was just really fascinating to watch everything.
All
that's
right.
going on.
So another company that has a brand new communications leader is Mattel. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about that, please.
So, Brew Media Relations CEO Dina Cook is now EVP and Global Head of Communications and PR for Mattel. She reports to Chairman and CEO Ynon Kreiss. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. So the last person to hold the top comms role at Mattel was Nancy Elder. And she was in that position for about a year. She left.
Mhm.
She left last October.
And she's a JetBlue veteran too.
Yeah, she joined from JetBlue. She had been there for a while. So she left around October to work on a project in New York, and Edelman and Dina have actually been kind of taking on that like top comms, all the responsibilities in the interim.
Mhm.
But Dina was now just named the official comms head.
And they are breaking into entertainment a bit. Well,
Yeah.
more
They
into
hi-
entertainment.
They hired
Yeah.
Robbie Brenner to run their film division, their newly launched film.
What is your take on this as a veteran of that industry when you see a whether it's Lego and Lego's
Yeah.
had great success in
Yeah.
this space, or what Mattel's trying to do? I mean, what do you see as somebody who has a behind the scenes view on this?
Well, I think it's so smart. I mean, look at what Marvel did. I mean,
Mhm.
Marvel, who's known primarily, initially at least, for comic books, and now, when you think about all that IP, it's all about IP. We talk about that all the time. IP is how you separate yourself from the pack. That's what breaks through, and it would only make sense for a brand like Mattel to get into the film space. It makes and Robbie, whom I don't know, but has an incredibly amazing reputation and really good taste. So I thought that was a really smart move.
Something really interesting about like a film that they have coming up is because I think they were talking about Barbie
Yeah.
films and
Yeah.
Hot Wheels and things like that, but
Yeah.
they just announced I think last week they were going to make a Viewmaster film, which is those little like
Now, was that the thing you put the slide
Yes.
into it, right?
And
That was a
then you
Viewmaster.
click it,
Right.
the little red thing.
Yeah.
I forgot the official name of what that is, but yeah, Viewmaster movie. I'm really interested to see what that's going to look like. But that's their next plan.
All right. Yeah, well, we're looking forward to that. Okay. So tell us a little bit about Skechers
Yeah.
this week.
So
Skechers, the
I'm-
sneaker company,
I'm
taking
gonna
on Nike.
Read my notes because this is very sports related.
That's okay.
which is
I can
not
be
my
the sports
forte.
guy.
Okay.
I can be the sports guy, and I can.
Okay, do you want to take
Yeah,
everybody
we'll
through
do like a
how-
little behind the scenes here for our listeners, and I'll do the sports bit, and then I'll lead in for you, and
Thank
you
you.
can take it from there. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago was the Duke North Carolina game, and Zion Williamson is the star freshman player for Duke, and his shoe exploded. He's a Nike guy, and he's probably going to be the first pick in the draft next year, and his shoe exploded on the court. And so it was a bad look for Nike, and their stock dipped temporarily overnight. I think it's recovered since then, but don't quote me on that. So, but it was a bad look for Nike, and so Skechers got into the game, pun intended, just this week.
They did, and so one interesting thing about this is that the shoe explosion, as it's been, is it shoe explosion? I don't know. But that occurred on February 20th.
Right.
Skechers didn't actually react until this past weekend. So about like a week and a half had gone by that point. And Skechers ran an ad in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and USA Today. The ad said, "Just blew it." It featured a pair of torn Nike sneakers. And then on the bottom it had a Skechers logo and the text, "We won't split on you." So we actually ran a poll on this just to see what people thought, if they thought it was distasteful or if they thought it was well played. And it was kind of, I think about 60% said it was kind of lame.
My first reaction is that it took them forever.
It took a while.
Yeah.
So that kind of posed a problem. A lot of people, I think you even mentioned like Skechers is not really a basketball.
I don't know if they even make
shoe.
basketball sneakers.
Yeah, so
I
were they
don't
even
know.
right to enter this conversation?
Right.
Some people think it's lame to call out competitors when they have something happen like this. I thought it was kind of a funny ad, like as a non-sports.
Are you a Skechers aficionado?
I used to wear Skechers
Oh,
back
yeah?
in the day, quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Are they comfortable? I've never worn Skechers.
I've never worn
I
Skechers.
enjoyed them. I haven't worn them in a while, so I don't know how I'd feel now. But I don't know. My first reaction to the ad was I smirked. But I think if you like read into it and think about the timing and like is it fair? I don't know.
It's kind of newsjacking, but like 2 weeks later. So if you're gonna
Yeah.
if one of your brands was going to do something like this, is there a window you would give them where you would have to say like, look, you got to give me something in 36 hours?
Yeah, I think so, because I think, although we are talking about it,
Yeah.
so that obviously
Yeah.
means that it's resonating to some degree.
Mhm.
I think ideally you try and go as, within 24 hours.
24.
That would be, or else it becomes kind of yesterday's.
Yeah.
news.
Yeah, I kind of think they missed the boat on this, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
That's-
seems like there's also Puma like tweeted out something, I think.
But
right
Puma
after,
did it
and they
that night.
deleted- And then they deleted
Yeah.
their.
Because it was kind of in bad taste because
Yeah.
the player was hurt. So
Yeah.
you didn't want to be seen as like, grave dancing,
Yeah.
so to speak.
This is an interesting one where anybody
is.
who's tried to enter the conversation has kind of been like,
Yeah.
it's like nobody's.
I don't believe he's played since, and now he's talking about potentially sitting out, correct? The rest of
Yeah,
the-
there's some
Wow.
questions
He
about
was
some of
really?
his
Was he
future,
really?
Yeah, no, he was really,
Yeah.
it was a sprained knee, and I
Oh.
know this because my husband is a proud alum of the University of Michigan,
Okay.
who has a very, very good basketball team, so we kind of rally around Michigan, and therefore, I know a lot about college.
When I was a kid, we're going to get into too much information. When I was a kid, I was a huge University of Michigan basketball fan.
Because?
Well, because Chris Webber and
Of course.
Jalen Rose and all those guys were on
The Fab Five.
Yeah, the Fab Five
Yes.
were on the team together.
Yes.
And I still think that men everywhere owe them a debt of gratitude because if it wasn't for them, we would all still be wearing shorts that were like up here.
Right, as opposed to.
And that basketball team single-handedly made it
Yes.
acceptable for men to wear long shorts. And we are
Yes.
thankful to them to this day
Indeed.
for doing that.
Yes.
So,
And many more things.
yes.
Yes.
Yes, very true. And, Chris Webber's still on TV, and those guys had a good
As is
run for
Jalen.
2 years. Jalen is too, yes.
Yes.
So, anyway, getting back on track now.
We digress.
This is what podcasts are for.
Yes.
Okay, journalists, and when do they like to be pitched, Diana?
So I don't know how I feel about this study, I have to say. So a study by PR platform Propel found that reporters are 90% more likely to open a pitch sent between noon and 1 p.m. than 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pitches sent between 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. are 40% more likely to be opened than those sent between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. I don't.
You don't get it.
I believe that. Like I mean it. I don't know. Like just at the end of the day, like to me, a good pitch can be sent to me whenever. The timing doesn't really matter to me.
Mhm.
And actually, I personally like pitches early because then I'm like, okay, now I can.
I think as a general
Figure out my
rule,
day.
earlier is better.
Yeah.
But luckily we have an expert here, so what do you think? When do your folks pitch?
I would say from 10 a.m. to 2 is the sweet spot.
Okay.
I'm shocked by anything after 6.
Yeah.
That to me, I know I saw that.
Unless it's a big heads up for like news that's going to.
That's about
be
to
embargoed.
break.
The only
Or
thing in my
that's
mind
being
that's
embargoed,
like in
yeah.
this day and age where everybody's so mobile. I mean, the only thing that's a real no-go zone, and this has happened to me, is where you get this overnight pitch, and they're like, "Oh, it's the embargo's lifting at 7 a.m."
Well,
Yeah,
that's
which is just
not-
lame.
No, it's
You know.
that's not right.
So yeah, so you're skeptical. We're all skeptical.
Yeah. Yeah. What else did this say? This said the likelihood of a pitch being opened also depends on the day of the week. Tuesday is the best day of the week, with 62% of pitches being open, followed by Wednesday, 59%, Monday, 43%, Thursday, 39%, and Friday, 35%. So.
Okay.
Tuesday's the sweet spot.
Evidently.
I have a question.
Go on.
We have started to kind of put the reading time at the top of every pitch that we send out. Whether it's a pitch, whether it's a press release, whether it's just a quick, handful of bullets,
Yeah.
so that journalists like yourselves know exactly how long it will take.
There's a.
What do you
is the
think?
media outlet doing that now too? Where it's
Well, Fast Company's been doing that for a while.
Yeah, but there are definitely some that say like read time.
Exactly, but we're kind of flipping it and doing it from our end so that
Yeah.
you guys don't feel like you're having to sit through and read through a slog.
So I would say I think we all probably that do it professionally feel like we can get the important info out of a press release pretty quickly. So I don't know, but it's helpful. Sure.
Okay.
Why not? If you guys
Yeah.
are willing to do it, I don't see it.
We're
being a
happy
big
to do
problem.
it.
Cool.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ann?
I think it's a good idea, but I also think it's sad that people now need to be told oh, don't worry, this won't take too much time out of your day, because people have no attention span and
I see.
I know.
the quick snippets.
Well, on that sad note, we have to end the podcast. unfortunately.
Sorry.
So, Liza, thank you for
Sorry.
joining us. Is there going to be a Daria reboot? This is.
Oh.
There is.
There is.
Yes, under MTV Studios. So you'll have to stay tuned. And were you a fan of The Real World? Either of you? Did you ever watch The
I
Real
was
World?
when it first came out.
Okay, so we, that was one of the first shows we announced under our MTV Studios umbrella, and the first, actually, show that we sold. So it will be on Facebook Watch this spring. 3 localized versions in Thailand, Mexico, and the U.S. So
Mhm.
we're really excited about
That's
that.
terrific.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, Liza, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it. And Diana, thank you for joining us. That's all the time we have for this week's episode, but thanks for joining us again on PR Week.